I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. He was a basketball player, and so we would spend hours out shooting baskets in front of our garage. And so I went out in 7th grade and didn't do real well, but I was real determined to make the team the following year, varsity team. And that year, my dad re-sided the house and took down the basketball hoop. And so he didn't put it up till right before basketball, the tryouts. And so when I went back to shoot for that practice, I wasn't hitting anything. So I said something to my friend about that, and he said, "Why don't you just try wrestling?" And so that's how it began. Everybody was a basketball player in our house and kind of leaning that way until that moment. So I went out of 8th grade, and that's kind of started there. And it was a friend, actually, and we ended up graduating together. I actually just saw him last year when I was back at the Iowa Nationals, and he reminded me of that, which I forgot, actually, that he's the one that actually recruited. Yeah, so, but yeah, that friend, and once I started it, I didn't know if I was going to be any good in it, good at it, but I just loved it. Yeah, I just loved it. I'll have to go and say there's a lot of people, of course, that impacted my career, but without, I think, my brothers, especially Jim and Larry, without those two, I don't think I know I wouldn't have developed to the degree, and I don't think I would have went to Iowa based on this. The semifinal match of my senior year, and I found out years later when I was at Iowa was going to recruit the winner of that match. Yeah, and there's some of the Iowa people were, they had teammates there at Iowa that were thinking he was going to win. But anyway, I was getting beat, and I ended up beating him, basically from just maybe determination and faith and just some of the wrestling moves. But if it wasn't for the training with my brothers, we had a mat down in the basement over the years, I don't think I would have won that match. And so if I wouldn't have won that match, I don't know where I would have went from there, but it definitely would have been the University of Iowa. I was the oldest, yeah, and then Jim's 2 years younger, and then Larry, who actually also placed in the state in Iowa and actually wrestled at the University of Iowa too. Actually, all three of us were in the lineup at one time. But both of those guys were great workout partners. And
has Iowa ever had three brothers in the line at the same time?
They could have had the Banquet brothers, but I don't think so. I don't know, because there were three of them too.
Yeah, that's a good trivia question.
At that particular time, Dan Gable, of course, was kind of the talk of Iowa. The first exposure really I had to wrestling was watching the '72 Olympics, watching him and a few of the other guys on TV. I think that kind of got the pot stirring, actually, a little bit about wrestling, going out for wrestling. But, Gable definitely, as I got older and reading his books about how he trained and, the fact that he was only from, 60 miles away as well, grew up 60 miles away. We wrestled their high school and dual meets, kind of brought it home, made it a little bit more tangible, of course. But, of course, I think everybody, once we got to the University of Iowa, wanted to be like him. But I would say I'd give him probably, he was kind of always the carrot you're trying to get a hold of, or chase down or be like. The wrestlers that were the same ages, that they all kind of also had that same philosophy. They were going to work as hard as Dan Gable. They were going to hopefully do the same things he did. But he was I just got back from Iowa, and his name's still quite, he's very popular within the state still. Sure. I thought about that question, and I have just so many really memories. And I think I might be able to give you a different answer, at different parts of the year. But I think the thing that really, if I had an outstanding memory, is kind of the joy, I think, that my brother and I got to bring my family, my parents, through the sport of wrestling, or in the community of, Shueyville, Swisher, Iowa. They end up, I think they were very proud of, what we did, and, it just felt good, I think, very good during those years to just be somebody that would bring joy and bring pride to this group of people that we grew up around.
That's great.
You know, I would say winning the state title in Iowa was probably the best, the one thing that I really, you know, it probably meant the most. You know, I mean, it definitely was it was definitely the kicking stone to another, you know, to another level. But I just remember after having won that match, just kind of going back in the stands and just a sense of peace. Just having done, you know, I felt I started late in 8th grade. I never really, especially at a younger age, ever thought I could win a state title there. And there was some great wrestlers during those time periods that won the state. And just to be considered a part of that group was something, you know, just that meant a lot to me. Yeah, you want to see these kids succeed, and maybe sometimes more than, you know, they do. But yeah, I bet when you see a wrestler succeed, actually that same feeling actually comes back, you know, when you see him succeed. And so, yeah, that's probably the thing that keeps coaches coaching, and probably the biggest joy of coaching. Well, I would do things differently, but when you know, I read that question, I really, at the end of my college career / international career, I really started to take losses harder than I should have. Actually, harder than I think that was. I think it was detrimental to my, you know, I won't say health, but psychologically, you know. I really took them hard, and they were losses that, looking back, like they were like in the finals in the NCAAs, and then you rationalize, like, well, how many guys get there? You know, you're lucky even to be competing there. But for some reason, that last loss, I was seeded 1 for the '84 Olympic team, and then, you know, I ended up 5th, and then there was the last one was the world team in '86, and I lost to the same guy again, Metzger, but I beat him 3 previous times. But that last loss, I felt like I was falling apart a little bit for some reason. But what I really wish I became a Christian shortly after that, and I wish I think about this almost daily. I wish I would have been a Christian going into the sport of the wrestling, simply because of the mindset, the biblical application, I would say, through, you know, just persevering. This isn't all about you. You know, perseverance is a very important part. Winning or losing sometimes is the best thing, you know, for you long term. There's always a possible purpose for win or loss. You know, looking at it through those eyes really alleviates, takes pressure off. When you Yeah. And so looking at it back when I was wrestling, it was all about, you know, it was kind of for me, for my glory. I need to do this, and this will make my wrestling career type of thing. But this, you know, there's some pressure on this, and this kid's tough, and you know, all sorts of things go through your head. And so that's probably the one thing I would do different. I think I would have been a better wrestler. I think coaching even. You know, I became a Christian like at age 26, 27 when I was coaching at Iowa. But I think just even like now, dealing with losses, helping kids through losses, helping kids through wins. I mean, you know, are we going to be arrogant about this, or is this a gift God gave you, you know? So the whole biblical understanding, I think, is the way to approach it.
Yeah, and you are a great example of that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And congratulations for being inducted in California.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jeff.